say it, so I'm just gonna say it. I'm teaching a comprehensive course on Microsoft Excel. But let me tell you, Excel is a magician's hat that pulls out solutions to problems you never thought possible. As a former beta tester wizard for Microsoft, I've created more spreadsheets than stars in the sky. Come with me on a journey that will blow your mind. We're going back to a time when accounting was done with, well, sand. This is 5,000 years ago when the ancient Mesopotamians ruled the world, and clay tablets were the ultimate tech. They invented writing and spreadsheets before spreadsheets even existed, with wedge-shaped writing called cuneiform pressed into clay tablets. They tracked their trades, taxes, and loans like it was nobody's business. Ah! I think I'll add new shoes to the miscellaneous expenses column. And then came the paper ledger, the smartphone of the Middle Ages. The first tech revolution that changed the game for accountants and merchants everywhere. It allowed them to record several hundred financial transactions per day, a step up from clay tablets. And just when it seemed like spreadsheets had hit their limits, a new technology emerged. Computers with raw power at your fingertips. Programs like VisiCalc and Lotus 123 allowed for thousands of calculations per day. But with great power comes great responsibility. The undo function was yet to be invented. And today, Excel can do billions of calculations per day. So next time you open up the app, remember the journey it took to get here. And who knows where we'll go from here. Join me and unlock your full potential to wield thousands of years of history like a true wizard. Welcome to our 282nd weekly webcast. Now, if this is the first time you're joining us, welcome. If you've been with us before, welcome back. And the way this call works is this is an AMA, like you see on Reddit, Ask Me Anything. You can ask me business questions, career questions, investing questions, personal growth questions, any questions you want to, so I can humbly take your career, etc., to the next level. Now, this is the last week I'll be doing this call from Toronto. I've been here for a month with my parents, and I'll be back in the Bay Area next week for our weekly webcast. Let me get to your questions. First question is, what is considered liberal arts per the Nvidia career recommendation? Yeah, I think what you're referring to is what the CEO founder of Nvidia stated. His name is Jensen Huang. He said that students should not study computer science anymore. Instead, they should study liberal arts. And he said that because within a few years, and it's already happening, AI is going to help us with programming. So yeah, it might make sense to learn the basics of Python and other coding languages. However, AI is there to help us with that. And instead, Jensen Huang recommends studying liberal arts at university. Now, liberal arts is basically history, literature, psychology, sociology, etc. All that stuff you have to read a lot. And the reason why he thinks it's important to study this is because it helps to expand your mind to the extent that it helps you think creatively and differently. Now, Steve Jobs used to always say that Apple is at the intersection of technology and the liberal arts. Last thing I'll say in this is that Jensen Huang also stated that he thinks, in his opinion, that the US education system is going to surpass the rest of the world in the next couple of decades, only because in the United States, quite often, when you go to university for undergraduate education, you start doing liberal arts and then you declare your major in the second or third year, unlike other countries where you just do practical stuff right away. Yeah. All right, next question I've got from you is, how can you get rid of an accent if you're not a native speaker? I'm from a very small country, and if I don't speak well in English, my total addressable market will be small. Couple things. First of all, I think it's great to have an accent. It makes you stand out. It makes you different and unique from everybody else. But if you want to learn how to change your accent, I don't recommend it, but what you can do is start watching movies and television programs from the country where you want to get that accent. And I'll give you an example. So it's really interesting that a lot of famous actors and actresses, they're from the United Kingdom, and they're in American movies and they have American accents. But you don't see that many American-born actors do the British accent well, aside from Johnny Depp. And the reason is because a lot of people in the United Kingdom grew up watching American movies. So if you want to have more of an American accent, and again, I recommend sticking with your current accent because it makes you unique and different. You can start watching more programs or more vlogs if you want to from Americans, or whatever dialect of English you want to learn. Yeah. Okay. All right, next question is, how do you find people who are on boards of companies? Yeah. So what you can do is you can read the annual report. So by law, they have to disclose the senior executives as well as the board directors. So you can go to sec.gov, then enter the ticker name of the company that you're following, and then look at what's called a 10K, which is an annual report. And I can go there with you if you want me to. Yeah. All right, next question is from Vladika, who wrote, hi, Chris. Hi. What do you think about the lithium sector? Will it grow because it's now in a big minus compared to the all-time high? And which companies have big growth potential in this sector? Yeah. So lithium is used, as we know, for alternative energy products like batteries. And one of the reasons why it may be pulling back recently is because a lot of people think that Donald Trump has a much higher probability of now getting elected. And in all of his speeches, if you watch them on television or clips online, you'll see he talks about drill, baby, drill. That's exactly what he says. And what he means by that is trying to get access to energy in the United States, which has the largest reserves in the world, according to Donald Trump. I don't know if that's been fact checked. And also, he thinks if we go back to using gasoline and a little bit less so electric vehicles, then this will really help with inflation issues. So gas and oil are used in most products, everything from plastics to anything you buy that was built with a machine. And one of the biggest problems with inflation is when the price of oil and gas go up a lot. So he wants to drill and get the gas and oil from the United States instead of importing as much. And he's not as much of an environmentalist. Yeah. Okay, now in terms of what companies to look at, yeah. So there is actually an ETF called LIT, which is the coolest ticker ever. My kids say lit a lot, but I'll show that to you. And we can look at the components as well. So let's go together to Yahoo Finance, okay? And then what I'll do is I'll type in the ticker for lithium, which is LIT. And what you can do if you don't want to buy this ETF, and it's not that liquid, after you do your research, what you can do is you can go to the holdings. Then you can see what are the biggest lithium plays in this index. This is not a pure play because TDK makes GMR heads and other products, great Japanese electronics company. Tesla's not a pure play with lithium, etc. Now, another thing you can do if you want to invest in any type of ETF is you can go to this free website called etfdatabase.com. That's etfdb.com. And then what you can do is you can actually look at ETFs by type. And so I can scroll down here, and there's probably a lithium one here. Let me do a search on lithium. I don't see it here. Maybe it's in here. Find lithium. Here it is. Great. Okay, and there's a couple of ETFs here you can look at. So another one is BATT, which is clever for battery, and then WBAT. You can click on these and look at the holdings as well. See what positions are in that. Now, last thing I'll say is that whenever you want to invest in an ETF, please don't do so unless it's very liquid, meaning it trades a lot every day. And whenever you buy a stock or an ETF, I never want you to buy more than 10% of the average daily trading volume. So never buy more than 36,000 shares, for example, here. You also want to look at the expense ratio, which right here is 0.75. That's a little bit high. And what that means is for every $100 you put into this ETF every year, you're going to be paying 75 cents in fees. Now, my go-to ETF, when I'm not sure where to put my money, and do your research first, please, is the VU, which is the S&P 500. It's very liquid, and the expense ratio is 3 pennies per $100 you invest each year. So please don't buy mutual funds. They're an absolute ripoff. Okay, let me get back on track here. I think it's a little bit too bright here. The problem is I've got the window there and the sun is getting a little bit brighter now. I think that's good there. Okay. All right. Okay, next up, Sean. Hey, Sean. Sean wrote, when you forecast income statements, especially revenue, what are the checklists you follow to estimate future growth rate? Can you show an example? Absolutely. Now, every company in every sector has a slightly different driver that makes revenue go up. And whenever you're forecasting financial statements, spend almost all of your time or most of your time on forecasting revenue. So revenue is at the top of the income statement, and most other items become a percent of revenue. So you can figure out your earnings per share or cash flow longer term. Now, different sectors have different drivers. So if you're looking at the retail sector, meaning restaurants like McDonald's, Chipotle, etc., or even retail stores like Lululemon, what you want to do is, let me just skip ads. It wants to play you an ad here. No, thank you, YouTube. Okay. What you can do is you look at what's called same store sales, SSS. And investors only give companies credit for growing organically. What does that mean? Well, if a company buys another company and grows a lot because of that, investors don't like that. So you want to look at organic growth. So how can we analyze organic revenue growth for McDonald's, for example, by looking at same-store sales? Well, we look at year-over-year growth of each store. And so McDonald's, a number of years ago, investors were upset because they weren't growing anymore. So what they did was they started offering coffee, which helped year-over-year growth. And coffee is a very high margin product. In fact, McDonald's only makes money on drinks and a little bit on fries. That's why they always say, would you like a Coke with that? Other ways McDonald's reinvigorated year-over-year same-store growth, same-store sales, is they opened all night long in certain areas. They also offered breakfast all day long, and they made their seats, the chairs at McDonald's are hard plastic. And if you sit on them for more than 20 minutes, it's really uncomfortable, which increases traffic throughput within the stores. Now, other sectors have different drivers when it comes to forecasting revenue. For example, the hotel industry has what's called RevPAR, and that stands for revenue per available room. If I'm investing in Marriott or Hilton, for example, I'm not going to give them credit for growing revenue by opening a lot of hotels because they might have used a lot of debt. So I look at the growth in revenue per available room every year. You know, they might juice growth by offering, I don't know, drinks in the mini bar, pay-per-view, whatever, all that stuff. And there's other companies too. So if you look at telecommunications company, you're going to look at what's called ARPU, which means average revenue per unit. How much is the revenue per unit growing year over year? That's why with Android, at least not with Apple, but with Android and with PCs, they tend to bundle a lot of crap on their software, etc. If you're not sure what the driver is for a particular sector when you're creating your income statement, then just keep in mind the following two things. If prices are going up for the product they sell and volume is going up for the product they sell, then that's pretty good thing, usually a pretty good thing. Now, as a follow-up, you wanted me to show you an example. Absolutely. Okay. So in my MBA degree program, I have tons of templates you can download as part of the program. And this here is a 100-step investment research report. It's a template where there's 100 steps and there's 730 questions you have to answer here. Now, within the financial research process here, this is financials here, this is quantitative, this is qualitative. Within financial, the sources you can use include, pretty sure I had it down here, must have disappeared, yeah. The sources you can use here, it's actually underneath here, include Yahoo Finance as well as sec.gov, or it's right here, sorry. Yahoo Finance, sec.gov as well as the company's investor relations website. And you go there to get the financial statements. Then what you do is you copy the information from the income statement and you put it here into your revenue forecast. Okay, and this is how professionals make financial models. And I created this based on my experience working at Goldman, working at the largest hedge funds, and working in venture capital as well. So then you forecast revenue right here. Okay. Then you're going to forecast the income statement, and most expense items are percent of revenue. And then eventually you get over here to valuing the company using PE, price to revenue, and discounted cash flow. And the reason why we take the average of 3 target prices is because whenever we're doing investment research and valuing companies based on our research, one of our valuation methodologies is going to be way, way off. We don't know which one it is. But investment bankers, when they do IPOs, they also do this. They value the company using 3 different evaluation methodologies, then take the average of all 3 in order to minimize the risk of error. And if you have additional questions on this, please let me know. Okay, let me go back to Wirecasts. Get back to Big Chris. Have a little bit of coffee. All right, next question is, how do you estimate the future PE ratio for the calculation of your target price? Yeah. So when you think about PE or any fraction for the rest of your life, I always want you to think of the denominator as being the number 1. What that means is this: price over earnings. For every $1 in earnings per share, how many times that $1 are investors willing to pay on the numerator? So if a company has a PE of 10 times, that means for every $1 in earnings per share, investors are willing to pay 10 times that $1. And companies that grow faster have higher PEs. They should, because you're paying up for growth. And the easiest way to understand this is to take a look at the S&P 500. So historically, and this is a very rough estimate, the S&P 500 has an average price earnings ratio of 15 times. And the average company in the S&P 500 grows at about 15%, meaning its earnings are growing 15%. So if we take the PE divided by the growth, the P of 15 for the S&P divided by the growth of 15, that's 1. Okay, that's a price earnings growth rate of 1. So that's the rough math to use. Now, if a company is growing earnings in the S&P at 20%, they should probably trade at 20 times earnings and not 15 times. And so when you're coming up with a way to value your companies, what I recommend is this. You forecast your income statement for at least 5 to 10 years. Then what you do is trying to play ads again. Let me skip this. I don't take any sponsors on my website or my YouTube channel. Then what you do is this. Okay, so you look at, for example, between year 4 and 5. If between year 4 and 5 you have earnings per share growing at 20% from say $1 to $1.20, then that means that your target price should be 20 times your earnings estimate in 5 years. And it makes you think long term as well in terms of holding the stock for the long term. If you have follow-ups, please let me know. Thank you. The sun's getting a bit brighter. I'll be back in my studio next week. Okay. All right. Okay, next question is, how do you screen for stocks? And once you pick the stock, how will you analyze the stock to put it as an investment trade? Yeah. So one way to think about it is, think about in 5 years, what sectors or technologies are going to be more relevant than they are today. And once you come up with that investment theme, that's top down, then you can do bottoms up. You can start doing research on companies in that sector. And so earlier today, the first question was about lithium, or one of the first questions. So if you're bullish, meaning positive on lithium longer term, then you can look at lithium ETFs, like ticker LIT, and look at the components and start doing due diligence that way. Now, never, ever, ever buy a stock just because it's cheap, because quite often it's cheap for a reason. Don't get seduced by value traps. And always ask yourself this question before investing in any single stock. In 5 years, is this company going to be more relevant or less relevant than it is today? Now, you also asked about how to do investment research, and I'll make this quick, but I provide you with many templates in my MBA program. You can get it at harounmba.com. But this template here will ask you 700 questions over 100 steps about qualitative research, quantitative, and financial model to get your target price. And there's 3 outputs from this. The first output, based on your inputs here, is, give me 1 second, check here. Oh my God. Sorry, guys. I clicked the wrong button. Okay. This is where I usually lose viewer. I'm having a senior moment, and I'm actually going to put on my glasses now. You guys have never seen my glasses. Here we go. All right, the older I get, the better I was. So there's three different categories of criteria to invest in a company, which are all here on this dashboard for you. Okay, qualitative, quantitative, financial, and then there's three outputs from this. Number one, based on your inputs, what you type there, you've got a bunch of dashboards. Then you've got a one-page executive summary, and this is just dummy data here. And you can print out this one pager as well if you're going to an interview, for example, and put it on the back of your resume. And the third and most important output from this is a detailed 150 page report on the company. Okay, let me go back now. All right. And these are blue blocking glasses as well. I wear these at night if I'm using my iPhone so I can get better deep sleep. And I went to a Stanford University sleep study to help fix my sleep. And this is one of the reasons. At night, when you use your iPhone or any device, blue light gets into your head and you can't sleep, and it destroys your deep sleep, which you need to grow and fix yourself, etc. Okay. All right. Okay. Next question is, do you use options to trade or only use it for hedging purposes? If you trade, what will be an ideal time frame to put on a trade? Yeah. So Warren Buffett always said, the longer the view, the wiser the intention. And whenever you buy a stock, I want you to assume, like Warren Buffett does, that the stock market's going to be closed for 10 years after you buy it. And that will make you be long-term focused, which means you'll pay a lot less in taxes, capital gains taxes, etc. And you won't have to worry about the volatility, and you'll sleep well at night because you'll tell yourself, I don't know the path, but I know the destination longer term. So once you come up with a target price on a company after you use that spreadsheet I just showed you, then what you can do after that is you can buy calls if you want to. Okay, so let's say your target price, and I only like to invest in what I call 5x5s, meaning companies that I think can go up 500% within 5 years. Am I wrong a lot? Oh my God, yeah. But when I'm right, if I'm a little bit right, I do quite well. So once you establish that long-term target price, then what you can do is you can look to buy calls. Okay. Now, the way to know if a company has calls is you go to Yahoo Finance, you type the ticker name. I'll show you here. Okay. And I teach this in my MBA program too. So Tesla, for example. Okay. You type the ticker, then you go here to options. Okay. And then what you see right here is calls, and you select the date when you want these calls to expire. So I'm buying calls that will expire in more than 2 years here, and this is called a leap. And so you'll pay a little bit of money for a call, and the most you'll lose is this much, whatever you paid for it. But if you're right, and the stock is a 2, 3, 4 bag or whatever within a couple of years or longer, you can make 50 to 100 times your money. Now, I don't recommend ever underwriting these things, meaning buying, selling the options yourself. And the reason I say that is because if you underwrite these, meaning you become a market maker and you sell puts and calls, you can lose way more than what you invested. Yeah. And for those of you in my MBA programs, just go to FA44 to learn more about options. That's Finance and Accounting, semester 4, class number 4. Thanks. Okay. All right. Okay, next question I've got here. Sean wrote, how do we find suppliers details for each company? Can you show an example? Yeah, absolutely. So whenever you invest in a company, you always want to look to see that they have no 10% customers, meaning no customer is more than 10% of revenue. And when it comes to suppliers, you want to make sure that no one supplier provides more than, say, 30% of the chips, for example, for that company or wherever the inputs are. Because from a pricing power perspective, the supplier can screw you. So what you can do is you can go to sec.gov, and I'll show you how to find supplier names. All right, so let's go there together, sec.gov. And what we'll do is we'll type Dell. Okay, Dell right here. And then what you can do is you can go to the annual report for Dell, and then you can search for suppliers, and it'll be highlighted within the risk section of this. Yeah, so search for a supplier. Yeah, and it names them as well if it's a material supplier for them. Yeah. What you can also do is this. You can go to the company's website and go to their investor relations page. And there's plenty of documentation on, turn on the air conditioning here, it's getting hot. There's plenty of documentation on who their suppliers are, etc. Yeah. Okay. And if that air conditioning unit is too loud, please let me know. Thank you. All right. Hey, Shahar, how are you? Great to see you. Ani chotze coffee achshav. Shahar is one of my students in my MBA program. Great guy. Okay. All right. Mateo, good to see you. Lei, how are you? Pulasli, how are you? I'm good, thanks. And then Lei wrote, in the eighth decade has its challenges. I might as well have fun. At least I'm still alive for now. Yeah, I don't know if that's a famous quote, but yeah, every day counts, man. And the way that I get into a peak mental state every day before I go to bed even, and have a positive attitude is I always thank God for 10 things. And it's usually this, my kids, Andrew, Matthew, Dylan, my wife, Christine, my mom, my dad, my brother, Jamie, my sister, Elizabeth, and Katie, God bless you. She passed away 2 weeks ago. That's why I'm in Toronto. And all of you, my students. So I practice gratitude and it works incredibly well. It's kind of like meditating. And then what I also do is I read one chapter of this Bible here as well. It's really short. Yeah. Gets me into a peak mental state every day. Yeah. Another way to, I don't know, improve your attitude is to cut off people in your life that are negative. They bring you down. What's the point? Yeah. You're not a tree you can move. You can get away from that. All right. Next up, Duan wrote, hi, Chris. What are your thoughts on Dave Ramsay's philosophy regarding the baby steps? I'm not familiar with that. I know that Dave Ramsay, I think it was Dave Ramsay, maybe Kiyosaki, talk about their dislike of debt. I agree with that if it's a company, but for yourself, when it comes to buying a house, debt is very, very good. Yeah. And so, and a lot of people that haven't bought a house yet or rental properties feel really uncomfortable with the notion of taking on debt. I recommend putting down at least 20% on your primary house or investment properties. And if you think about it, if that house doubles in price and you put down 20%, that means you made a 5x return. Yeah. Plus, you get a lot of tax write-offs. I know you're releasing my complete real estate course exclusively to my MBA students this fall, and I will teach you how to buy the best house, save a lot of money, make a lot of money through real estate, and also invest in commercial and residential real estate. Yeah, should be fun. Okay. Okay. Sean wrote, can you talk about some passive income ideas? Yeah, absolutely. Side hustles. And for those of you that want to start a side hustle, a lot of students of mine will start making money on a side hustle and they ask me, Chris, should I quit my full-time job? And I always say, after you write your business plan, which I teach you in my MBA program, because failing to plan is plan to fail. And after the revenue from your business over the past 6 months is greater than your annual salary, so that you don't have to worry about seasonality because Q4 is usually quite good. In terms of ideas for side hustles, online teaching is the best one. And anybody can teach online. And when one teaches, two learn. And even Ninja, who my kids love, he's some streamer. They play Fortnite. He started out his career teaching on Udemy, for example, how to use Twitch. It's the best side hustle. And a lot of parents historically want their kids to become, doctors or, God forbid, lawyers. The problem with that is that doctors and lawyers can only have one customer at a time. If you're an online teacher, and everybody can teach, you can hypothetically have a billion students at the same time, or millions, whatever. Yeah. So it's the most scalable business model ever. You don't need any capex. You don't need spend any money. You already have one of these things. And doing research to create a course is easy. You can always ask me how to create a course, and I can help you come up with great ideas as well. So that's one idea of passive income. Another idea of passive income is if you own your house, you can rent out a room like I used to do using Airbnb, right? It's passive income and you get a lot of tax credits to talk to your accountant first for more details. You can also purchase residential units like an apartment, a condo, or a small house, for example, and then just collect rent off of that. And on Saturday, I'm driving down to London, Ontario, where I was born, and I bought a couple of houses there that I rent out to students at the University of Western Ontario. And if you're going to buy residential real estate, I recommend buying them close to universities, only because rent control is a brutal, brutal thing. And if you rent to somebody who's not a student, then they might stay in the unit forever and, get that. Yeah. Another side hustle can be online consulting. It's really easy to start a consulting firm. In North America, there's well over 100,000 consulting firms. And I can talk about those in much more detail if you want me to as well. Don't ever start any company where you have to worry about inventory. All right. And day trading does not work. All right, next up, Steve wrote.
Sorry, I'm having trouble connecting to the internet.
We're talking to you, Alexa. All right. Steve wrote, the Bank of England has just cut interest rates. Yeah. And other countries as well. What's your take on the Treasury not cutting rates yet? Well, what I'll say is it was actually very positive. Yesterday, the FOMC released, the Federal Open Market Committee, released their minutes from their most recent meeting, and they implied that there's a very good chance the Federal Reserve is going to cut interest rates in September for the first time in 4 years, right? And that's a big deal. It's a big deal because inflation is getting a little bit better now. And also, if you look at the weekly jobless claims, they came in about 1% or 2% higher than expected. And that's a good thing for the Fed, because the Fed wants not only inflation to stop, but unemployment to go up. And once they see those two things, then they start cutting rates, which I think they will start doing in September. Yeah. It's going to be interesting, though. It's an election year. Okay. And the Fed's supposed to be an independent body. All right. Next question is from Sean, who wrote, what are your health hacks? Yeah, sure. So I'm 52 years old, but I have the maturity of a 7-year-old. In terms of my health hacks, there's a bunch of things I do. So what I do is, actually, I'll show you a picture here. So this is my setup here in my parents' house. So I'm here for a month seeing them, and I bought this unit, this treadmill below me. I bought it, I think it was 180 bucks. You can get it for 130 now in the United States. And then I bought a stand-up desk that goes up and down. So probably the best health hack I humbly have is I like to walk when I'm working, and I get 20,000 to 30,000 steps a day in when I do this. And the reason I came up with this health hack is when I was younger and I was in university, I remember the first hour of studying in the morning, I got a lot of work done. It was very productive. And then if I crammed at night for like 10 hours, I would get less work done than I did in that 1 hour. Now, if you're walking all day like I do, you're productive just like that first hour all day long. It works, I promise you. You got to try it. Small investments. Also, I try to consume a lot of water as well. I got this on Amazon. It's cheap. It's called Bottle Joy, and it's got time on the side as well. So I know I'm on track, drink the right amount of water. Now, to be intellectually honest, good disclosure here, I never finish the whole thing, right? But if I didn't have this, I'd probably drink less water. Another health hack I have is I like to biohack a lot. So since 2015, every morning, the first thing I consume is something called bulletproof coffee. I'm using a straw so my teeth can get wet or whatever. But bulletproof coffee, it's just coffee that's created with no preservatives. And you also put in a tablespoon of butter. And I know it sounds out there, but for hundreds of years, people have been putting butter in their coffee and their tea. And it gives you this incredible cognitive ability to speak gooder and stuff. It helps. It helps, yeah. I also put something here called MCT oil, which is coconut oil. If you're going to do that, talk to your doctor, but also understand that can give you stomach aches if you put too much in initially. Aside from that, every Sunday, I create 7 containers or jars or drink plastic bottles of juice. And I'll show you exactly what I put in these things. And you have to put a lot of kale. Kale has more protein ounce for ounce than anything, including all those, those meat products. So let me go to my orders here in Amazon and see if I can show you. Yeah. So it's been a while since I've ordered, 'cause I've been here in Canada. But I order every week from Whole Paycheck. Sorry, I mean Whole Foods. And what they do is that they bring me all of, here it is here. Good. All right. So what I put in my shake is I put in tons of kale, strawberries, raw ginger root, garlic. I know it's bizarre, but but it's a great antioxidant. Plus, I've been married for 25 years. Doesn't matter anymore. I'm just kidding. Lemon as well. Never oranges because they're high in calories. And then blueberries, which is an antioxidant. I also put in broccoli, which actually juices really well, and it's good for you, as well as celery. Anything green is great to juice. Now, in addition, what I do is I put in a scoop of whey protein. I put mushroom extract. I put acai, and I put flax seeds as well, so that I don't get cancer. And if you're a guy, you have to take flax seeds. You can search why if you want to. Yeah. And so my second meal of the day after I finish this coffee is I sip that all day long, and I only take a sip when I'm hungry. And then at night I make a massive salad. Yeah. In terms of sleep and monitoring my health, I've been using what's called an Oura ring or Aura ring, Oura, I think, for several years now. And this will monitor and tell me if I'm about to get sick. And if it tells me I'm about to get sick, meaning it gives me a rating of readiness for the day of below 60, it's out of 100, then I don't exercise. Because if you exercise, you're about to get sick. If you get sick, right? This also tracks my REM sleep, my deep sleep, and other vitals as well. Yeah. So anyway, these are my health hacks. I take a ton of vitamins as well. Ray Kurzweil, who's the director of engineering at Google, has written a lot about life extension and the singularity and all that stuff. And I take his vitamins as well, which includes resveratrol, which is supposed to slow down aging. You can't reverse aging, but you can certainly slow it down a lot. Yeah. Also, the most important thing I do is I take off one day a week. And, there's so many great religions out there where there's 10 rules. And one of the rules is you have to take off a day every week. For me, I take off Sunday. It's my day to go to church and be with family. For my other students, it might be a Saturday or a Friday. And if you don't take off one day a week, I promise you'll burn out. And it's a great investment as well for you to reconnect with your family, etc. Yeah. And from a mental health perspective, it certainly helps a lot. Yeah. Okay. All right, next up, Sean wrote, what are your recommendations on investment careers where you can manage a decent work-life balance? Yeah. I think within the finance industry, the best job if you want a good balance in life is private wealth management. And it's basically like a stockbroker for really rich people. And you charge a 1% fee on the assets you manage every year. Plus, you might get commissions on stuff you sell from the firm you work for. The reason why private wealth management or PWM is the best long-term career in finance is because it's the only career where you can go from bank to bank to bank and bring your clients with you. So a lot of people will work in private wealth management at Morgan Stanley or Goldman Sachs. Then a year or two later, they'll leave and go to, I don't know, Deutsche Bank or something, or start their own firm and bring their clients with them. Yeah. The hardest job by far in finance is investment banking. And people say, I want to be a banker so I can make a lot of money. But you know what? Your first 4 years of working in investment banking, you're making probably less per hour than your buddies are, but they have a life. Yeah. And I can go to more details on that in any finance career if you want me to as well. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Louis wrote, what is your opinion on the old adage that says that young men should prioritize their career and start a family only when having been successful and built up a significant net worth? So funny because when I was younger, I used to think that. I used to tell myself, I want to make my fortune and then start a company. But that's pointless. That's just like saying, I want to work my tail off my entire life so I can enjoy 10 years of retirement. Don't you want to be happy right now? So I would say, don't ever put your family on hold, creating a family. You can get it done. A lot of people have done it. Yeah. Yeah, and you get tax breaks as well. I probably so for me, so I got married in the year 2000. I was 28, and then we had our first kid when I was 32, and Christine was 30. Yeah, but you can enjoy every single day if you have kids earlier. Yeah, and when you have kids, the outlaws become the in-laws pretty fast. Like my mother-in-law was great helping, etc. I can talk forever about that. Yeah, but I want you all to be happy today. And you might think, well, I won't have time, to have a career and children, etc. You do. You just don't have good time management. And I say it with love in my heart. So what I have in my MBA program is in the very first class, I give you all a dashboard, which is a daily planner. So you can schedule the next day, today, and get more done. And if you want to get something done, you give it to a busy person. And that's why when you're on vacation, for some reason, you don't even have time to go to the gym. Yeah. Uh-oh. I see the mention of a politician here. Okay. All right. So Manas from India, good to see you. You wrote, good morning, my dear mentor. What a beautiful day. How are you doing today in Canada? It's wonderful here. I love it. And I forgot how polite Canadians are. It makes me so proud, man. I was using my dad's car and I was at a stop sign, four-way intersection, and nobody was going. Like all the cars were like, go ahead. No, you go ahead. You go ahead. No honking at all. Yeah, it was nice. You wrote, how is your college friend, Mr. Trudeau, doing? Yeah, I don't really have much to say about that. I went to university with, and Trudeau was there. I met him once or twice. But I don't want to get into politics, but I want to get this red hat that says make Trudeau a drama teacher again. But I'm not going to get into politics at all. Okay. All right. All right. Give me 1 second, guys. And that's the problem with Canada. One of the problems, I love this country, but one of the problems is we don't have term limits. I think that all countries should have term limits on politicians. Yeah. Like when I was a kid, his dad, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, was prime minister forever when I was a kid. I believe in term limits. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Manas wrote, by the way, Paris Hilton is the granddaughter of the Hilton Hotel family. Her family is big, like really big and powerful, but they abandoned her for some reason. Yeah, I don't know much about that, but I do know that there was certain videos that were put online that were a big embarrassment for the family. Yeah. And by the way, Paris, it's interesting because Paris Hilton, she, the socialite and all that stuff, she fakes that accent. It's a persona she put on. Her real accent is completely different the way she talks. It's interesting. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Mohammed. Hey, Mohammed, who wrote, "Hi, Chris. Please explain how the financial analyst and the full MBA program, I joined Platinum already. Thank you. Are helping in the CFA knowledge area. Is it related and how much?" Yeah. So a CFA is better than an MBA if you want to work in finance. A CFA stands for a Certified Financial Analyst Designation. It's a 3-year program you take where you write one exam at night over 3 years. Now, in terms of my MBA program, there's over 100 hours of finance stuff that will certainly help you a lot with passing the CFA. However, there's a lot of regulatory, boring stuff in the CFA that you have to learn that I don't teach, right? Like US tax laws and all that stuff as well. Yeah. Okay. And my MBA program probably help you with, level 1, 2, and half of 3 for that stuff. Yeah. Okay. But I still recommend studying, and you can get the Schweizer books on eBay for $30. Don't use the textbooks that CFA provides. And I can show you that if you want me to as well. And today, Mohammed, we have our 3-hour weekly Zoom call for my MBA students starting at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And if you want, I can talk about it more detail then or now. All right. Moving on to Manas, who wrote, Apple may miss earnings. Maybe how is their AI work going and why Apple makes so much money? Like how many iPhones does the world need? Yeah, yeah. So iPhone growth is slowing materially. Like if you look at the iPhone 15 versus the 14, there's really no reason to upgrade. right? There's not that many groundbreaking differences. Now, I run iOS beta 18.4, and iOS 18 comes out this fall, which you can use on most Apple handsets. It's pretty cool. I can't really tell that I'm using it. There's a couple neat features, but AI is not part of this yet. So the jury's out on how AI, meaning Apple Intelligence, will work when it comes out this fall. But I do trust Apple as a brand more than any other technology company. Yeah. Okay. All right, moving on to Keith. Hey, Keith. Keith wrote, I use your option spreadsheet and your financial analyst spreadsheet often. Thank you. Is the spreadsheet available in one of your other online classes via Udemy or only with your full MBA program? Yeah, yeah. So I have an options course on Udemy as well, where you can get something similar. But all that financial, all the templates I've showed you today is only in my MBA degree program. Yeah, yeah. And Udemy is an important partner of mine. Yeah. All right. All right. Next up, Manas wrote, if a company misses earnings and its stock goes up, is it a black swan? No, no. A black swan event is something that Nicholas Taleb, a brilliant Lebanese author, came up with. A black swan event is something nobody can forecast. That's usually geopolitical in nature, like 9/11, or maybe the financial crisis, or COVID. Certainly, that's a black swan. Yeah, nothing to do with an earnings miss. Yeah. Now, whenever a company misses earnings, quite often you'll see the stock gap down 20%, or if they beat earnings, you might see the stock gap up 30%. And that usually means they miss by that amount. So if a company misses earnings by 20%, the stock will gap down 20%. And if they beat earnings by 30%, usually the stock will gap up by 30%. Why? Because sophisticated financial analysts, when they take all the new numbers from the quarter that was just reported and they feed it into their financial statements, like their income statement, it makes their earnings go up 30%. And their target price is usually based on PE. Yeah. And then Zaid wrote, hey, Chris, new studio. No, I'm just at my parents' place. I mean, I'm here for a month. My sister, God bless her, passed away a couple weeks ago. So I bought this stuff here. Yeah. This is Haroun Education Ventures North, like Rockstar North. Okay. You wrote, I wanted some tips, sure, from you on how to monetize YouTube and Instagram other than ads. My mother has gained over 100,000 followers in total recently. Her niche is cooking and food tiffins. Oh, I love it. Nicely done. How cool is that? Yeah. Um, so a lot of people, what they'll do with YouTube is they'll do sponsored videos. So I get at least 3 or 4 inbounds every day to my support email on people that want to pay me to, I don't know, talk about a product. I won't do it. I never have. I probably never will. We'll see. Because I want to be true and pure to my students. I don't make a ton of money off my YouTube stuff, but I make a lot, humbly, based on people buying my MBA program, as well as corporate consulting. Yeah. And it allows you to be thought of as a thought leader. And I recommend everybody start a YouTube channel right now. You have to do it because I think in 5 to 10 years, this market really won't be as viable. And the reason I say that is this. In 5 or 10 years, we are all going to be following avatars, meaning AI generated people who are perfect in every way. They speak more eloquently and gooder than me when they teach, etc. And the same thing with Hollywood. Hollywood's going to have a ton of actors are going to be AI based. So we have 5 years, 5 to 10 years to establish the brand of you. And if you establish the brand of you within the next 5 to 10 years, then you've got a chance to beat AI. Yeah. And I want you to think of yourself as a thought leader, like the Rodin sculpture, I think, therefore I am. And I want you to start creating a lot of content on LinkedIn and then repurpose it on other platforms. So for example, this weekly call I do, there's after I'm done with the call, I have a buddy of mine goes into the description field and writes all the questions that were asked. And then we repurpose that on different platforms. And I'll show you an example in a second. So that there's nothing left on this carcass, this weekly call by the time we're done. It helps you work smarter, not harder. So let me show you what we do. So let me go to my website, LinkedIn. You've seen it. I put videos here as well as on TikTok. So I have a TikTok channel. I just started really growing it last year. But a lot of the stuff that I talk about in these calls gets repurposed on a TikTok. So make sure that with the content you create, your YouTube content or LinkedIn content, whatever it is, repurpose it on multiple different social media sites. You can even write a book by repurposing what you have. And I did this several times. And basically what I did was for several years, I wrote articles on LinkedIn on, tips on stuff you can't learn in business school. And I repurposed that into a book called 101 Crucial Lessons They Don't Teach You in Business School. And everybody should write a book. It's good. It's good social proof, and it'll help you when you go to interviews and to meet with customers if you give them their book, and it costs you nothing. Let me show you how to do it. All right, so I've got a template for you. You don't have to give me your email or anything like that. Go to harounmba.com/write book. And then what you can do is you can download, I'm using a lot of bandwidth here. You can download this book right here. And there's one page that explains instructions on how to create a book for free. And this one page is here. And I teach you how to publish on Amazon Kindle, Amazon Print, and Audible, which is ACX. All you do is you open this in Microsoft Word, you type in all the contents, then you right click on the table of contents and you repaginate. It's that easy. If that seems like a lot of work, and I say this with love in my heart, how badly do you want a job? Or how badly do you want a customer or an investor? Yeah. Who does that? Who goes to an interview and gives their book? Yeah. It's easy to do and it's free. Okay. Yeah. So in terms of how your mom can make money, on her YouTube channel, you should, in the about section of your YouTube channel, you should provide your mom's email address so that people can reach out to her in terms of sponsor stories or cookware, whatever it might be. And you can make 5 to 10K per video that you make. What I would also do is I would drive traffic to your website and give away a book for free. And the reason I say that is because you can get somebody's email address and then use email marketing later. And of course, you have to be GDPR compliant. So I'll show you what I did here. So I have 75 courses, and one of them was the complete job course. And the third part, and I repurpose everything, the third part of that course was how to network. And all I did was I got the closed caption files and I turned it into a book. And I mean, this book alone has generated, well over 7 figures. It's humbling. It's been great. Yeah. So, okay. All right. All right. Next up, Sean wrote a follow-up on revenue forecast. Sure. Can you elaborate on it? For example, could you use Teradyne as an example? Yeah. So, sure. So let's go here to Teradyne semicap equipment. All right, let's go here. So I'm going to go here to sec.gov. Okay, right here. And then I'm going to type in the ticker Teradyne. Here it is. Okay. Then what you're going to do is, so companies report earnings 4 times per year. And they issue an 8K when they report earnings. So I'm going to go to their most recent earnings release, which was on July 25th. Okay, and then we'll click right here to go to the press release. Okay, I'll make it a little bit bigger so you can see. So in this press release here, you have the income statement and the financial statements. So what you would do is you would take these quarterly numbers here, okay, and then you would put them directly into my revenue forecast income statement here. Okay, just feed it in, and then eventually you can come up with a target price. And on every one of these tabs, I have a YouTube video that explains how to use all 100 tabs. Yeah. Now, what's really important is this, though. When Teradyne reports, what they usually do, and most publicly traded companies do, is the press release comes out, so that's how we say it in Canada, and then what happens is they hold an earnings call. It's a webcast that anybody can attend. And by the way, hedge funds and professional money managers have no edge on you. By law, you can get access to all this information at the same time they do. So listen to the earnings call. And the way the earnings call works, and they do it quarterly, is, the call, it's like 30 minutes plus Q&A. And so what ultimately happens is the first 30 minutes, IR starts a call, investor relations, then the CEO speaks and says, we had another amazing quarter, even if they didn't. Then the CFO will speak about the financials and guidance, meaning what future numbers will look like in future quarters. Then there's the Q&A session, which is crucial. And during the Q&A session, the Wall Street analysts that cover the stock, like the semiconductor analyst, for example, at Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, will ask questions. And based on those questions, I want you to put tons of comments in your financial model. So what that means is you're going to right click on a cell. If they say, for example, our gross margin target is 82% in 5 years. So in 5 years in your financial model, right click on the cell, insert a note that says that. CFO said on this earnings call on this date, our 5-year target is 82%. Now, if you do that for every time they talk about a number and listen to the past 20 earnings calls, you will hopefully make money on the stock, or at least understand it better than the professionals do. And the issues with the professionals, the ones that work for the big investment banks, is there's bias. There's bias. Like, they don't want to say negative stuff about Microsoft, because if they do, then the investment bankers will not get future banking business from Microsoft, et cetera. Nobody's smarter than you. Okay, we lost a couple of viewers. Let me move on. Okay. Next up, Manas wrote, California is facing the worst fires ever. So why is global warming finally showing its sign? And how will AI development cause more harm to Earth than good, like the power grid? Yeah. So what a lot of people don't realize about AI is that the Capex is ridiculous. You have to spend a fortune on data centers, right? And that's why we pay for the advanced features in ChatGPT. Usually free products you don't pay for, or early products you don't pay for. Like Microsoft, a lot of investors were worried about Microsoft's earnings recently because their Capex grew by like $15 billion year over year for the most recent quarter. Why? Because you need a lot of computers to make AI work. The same thing with Google. Now, Google could have come out with their own ChatGPT a decade ago, 5 to 10 years ago, to be fair. In fact, the T in ChatGPT was created by Google. The reason why Google did not is a classic innovator's dilemma. So what happens is, if Google created their own AI product, pre-Gemini and the disaster that was Bard, if they did that years ago before OpenAI released their product, investors would have been really, really upset, because it costs a heck of a lot of money to create these data centers for AI purposes. Yeah, it would have cost them literally $30 billion in operating profit every year. Yeah. In terms of global warming with AI, it's tough, because you could surmise that, big cities are in decline, and we're going to be using more AI products and working from home more often. Therefore, we don't need as much gas to drive to work and stuff. And big buildings use a lot of electricity as well. On the other hand, AI uses a lot of electricity as well. Yeah. Yeah. But it has been really hot lately globally. I know for you in India, I think you mentioned at one point it was 60 degrees Celsius. Yeah. Okay. All right, next up, Rookie. First time I've seen you on the call. Hope you join us again. Rookie wrote, what are the prospects of risk management as a career? Yeah. Can an FRM help to enter? I've passed level 1, but lately I'm having a second thoughts over it. I'm still in college, so I haven't entered the market. Yeah. So people that work in risk management understand portfolio diversification and mathematics and statistics very well, right? They understand how to calculate net exposure, gross exposure, et cetera, and sector exposure. They also understand FX, right? So I would read the Financial Times every day, especially the Lex column, to understand FX movements. What I would also do is I would get very knowledgeable at Excel and Google Sheets as well, and other big data type products like Power BI, and then create a couple of examples of risk management reports you created with Power BI, for example, and bring that to your interviews. Now, whenever you see a job opening online, you literally have a 1 in 250 chance of getting that job. And ultimately, the person that gets that job knows somebody at the company. So in my MBA program, I teach you at the very beginning how to make an amazing LinkedIn profile, and then how to network to get the job of your dreams. And I promise you, if you network and meet with 30, 40, or 50 people from a company that you want to work at, you will get a job. You just have to have the chutzpah to follow through and set up all those 30, 40, or 50 meetings, which I teach in the first semester of my MBA degree program. Yeah. Yeah. But I studied mathematics a lot in university for that. Yeah, yeah. And speaking of diversification and risk management, I always recommend that you never have more than 5% of your liquid net worth in any one particular stock. So that means you have to own at least 20 stocks. Now, if you own an ETF, it can be 10% if you want to. I also want you to be cognizant of the following. Number one, sector diversification. Don't put more than 20% of your portfolio in tech stocks. I want you to have exposure to healthcare, consumer cyclicals, et cetera, retail. Number two, if you're outside the United States, be very careful about your international exposure, because from an FX or foreign exchange perspective, if the dollar moves a lot versus your currency, it could really have an impact on your net worth. Number three, liquidity. Only invest in stocks that trade a lot. Otherwise, they're impossible to sell. And in a down market, meaning a bear market, illiquid stocks own you rather than vice versa. Okay, Manas wrote, a few weeks ago, you showed a site for remote working. It was remote work dot something. Can you show it again? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So there's an incredible website called onlinejobs.ph. And it's based in the Philippines. And what you can do is you can hire people that can help you from a graphic design perspective, accounting perspective, web development perspective, etc. And the prices are ridiculously low, and they're all college graduates. And then $5 per hour, $20 per hour, $7 per hour. It's unbelievable, right? And so you can have contracts. And Microsoft, this is how Microsoft built their business back in the 70s and 80s, by hiring tons of contractors and fewer employees. The expenses are much, much lower. Now, I know people that use onlinejobs.ph, and they'll hire people here. They'll hire three to do the same job initially, and they'll tell them all, hey, I'm going to keep one of you. And whoever does the best job, they keep that sort of thing. Yeah. Okay. And the way I run my business is I don't have a single employee. It's a big business, humbly. I don't have a single employee. I outsource everything so I can focus on two things: content and supporting my students. But I outsource everything overseas as well. And I use AI and automation as well, so I don't have to hire people. Yeah. And that's what I teach in my MBA program as well when you start a company, is how to start a company with hardly any expenses and no employees. Yeah. All right. Lay wrote, what is the minimum that can be invested in the S&P 500 index VOO, the ETF? Yeah, so it's the price per share. So let's go here to finance.yahoo.com. Okay, and I'll type here VOO. So you can buy one share. You can also buy fractional shares. So this would be 500 bucks. But talk to your brokerage service you use and ask them if you can buy fractional shares, meaning part of this, if you want. And that's why stocks split, so more retail investors can buy stocks. Okay, next up, Manas wrote, I'm using generative AI to replace myself as an instructor long term, using it to make content in international languages. I know AI is coming for my job, and I'm happy to replace for the best. Yeah, I think that's smart. You always want to try to disrupt your own business model before the marketplace does. For example, Reed Hastings, the brilliant CEO and founder of Netflix, he decided to go digital and stop, mailing DVDs to customers years ago, because he wanted to disrupt himself before the market does. And so what I'm doing with AI is a couple things. Number one, I have AI chat. I pay 20 bucks a month. I don't have employees that answer questions. Chat does it all. What I also do is I'm working, I can't tell you the name. Okay, it's confidential, but I'm working with a very large Bay Area tech company that have taken all 7,000 hours of my YouTube content. And I've been teaching online for 6 years, whatever. So I have 7,000 hours of VILT, meaning virtual instructor-led training. And they've created an AI product of me. And it's just audio for now. The video is coming soon. But it's crazy. I've had conversations with myself. It felt like it was me. Even some of the bad dad humor. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Yeah. And so eventually we're going to make an avatar version of me as well to teach other courses. Yeah. And I experiment a lot. Yeah. And I fail a lot too, but it's fun. Yeah. Okay. And then Tis Louise wrote condolences. Thank you. Appreciate it. And then Manas wrote, much love to you for all for Katie. Kept her in my prayers last week. Thank you. And even today, then you wrote, by the way, you made a webcast from Canada years ago with your sister. Who was she? What was her name? That was Elizabeth. Yeah. And I think that was office hours number 50. Yeah. And I have all my old office hours on my website. I actually did it from this room as well. I'll show you how to access all my content if you're curious. So if we go to about on my website, harounmba.com, weekly webcasts. And this is all done with automation, by the way. Yeah, that's it. But let me go down here. Eventually, if you scroll through, you'll find all of them. Oh my God, dude, my 300th weekly webcast is coming up soon. Time goes by. I've loved every moment of it too. Yeah. And what I used to do was I would make these would never end. They would go on forever. And I did 12 hours once in a row. Yeah, but she's here. So, oh, that's Dylan. So cute. That's my son, Dylan. God, he's getting big now. That's my studio. I used to change up a lot. I think it's the number 50. Oh, here it is here. Yeah. Webcast number 50. And this is with Elizabeth. I did this from Canada. And then it was in this room here. That's me wearing my Joshua Tree shirt, which I still have, drinking Tim Hortons. And then right here is my little sister. See, everyone knows your Yaba.
Okay. That's my name.
Hey Yaba, tell us about Chris's childhood.
He was the best ever. You're 8 years older, right? 8 years older?
Yeah.
And was just always so fun and always so sweet and always so uplifting, pulling my hair constantly.
It's my sister. I love her dearly. She's here as well. Yeah. Okay. Everyone that's here up here. Okay. I won't. Thank you. Katie's up in heaven with Grandpa as well. And Grandpa used to always tell me, Chrissy, buy land, they're not making it anymore. Okay. Waleed wrote, hey, Chris, what do you think of when they showed Albert Pike IV in Billions and his role in improving running presidents? Do these secret hierarchies exist? Yeah, behind the scenes, there's a lot of lobbyists that have a lot of power. Yeah, a lot of power. Yeah, it is somewhat realistic as well. So in terms of my Billions blogs, I did one every week for 20 weeks. Now I came to Canada, and obviously for family reasons, I had to stop doing that. I'm on season 3 now, but I'll get to that one later. I liked it better when Bobby was in full time. Yeah, and actually, the writer of Billions reached out to me and had some nice things to say about my videos as well. Pretty cool. Yeah. And apparently, and it's just a rumor, but they're working on 3 or 4 billion spin-offs. One of them is going to be called Millions, based in Miami or something. Another one's going to be called Trillions, based in London. And they're working on another one as well. Apparently. Just a rumor. Yeah. And of course, if those comes out, I'll do a vlog on all of them. It's so much fun. I love it. All right, next up, Steve wrote, hey, Chris, do you advise taking out an accumulated equity on a home? Yeah, I prefer to keep it really simple. I want you to put down a minimum of 20% on your home and try to get a fixed rate for as long as you can. Like in the United States, you can get a fix for 30 years. And for those you already have outstanding mortgages, interest rates are coming down in the next couple of months. And if you find that interest rates are lower than when you signed your mortgage, I want you to call your mortgage broker and refinance. Okay, it might cost you a bit of money, but it could save you a fortune in the long run. Yeah. Okay, next up, Dewan wrote, what position can I apply for if I want to learn more about how to help companies grow? I'm an accountant, but I'm looking to change industry. I would love to help companies grow overall. Yeah, a couple ideas for you. So accounting and finance is not common sense. It's a language of business. You have to learn it, and that's what I teach. But you already know it. So what I recommend doing is 2 things. Number 1, look to go work for a consulting firm that helps their clients change to be more successful, like Accenture, for example, or McKinsey, or can be an accounting related firm if you want to. Now, the great thing about the big four, like KPMG, Deloitte, etc., is they have accounting divisions and consulting divisions. So if it's hard for you to get in the consulting division, join the accounting division first and then switch to the consulting division. What you can also do later in life, if you start a couple companies, is you can work in venture capital. And when I worked in venture capital and I joined boards of companies I invested in, that was my role as well, as to help them grow. But the reason I say only join VC later in life is because I don't want anybody to go in venture capital that hasn't started a company before. Yeah. And the reason I say that is because, if you work hard to get a job in VC and you're trying to compete against Sequoia or other, VC firms to win around a deal, meaning to invest in a company, the CEO of the company might not select you because you haven't started companies before. Yeah. All right. And people won't make as much money as you think in VC. And I can talk about that in a lot of detail if you want me to. There's only 10 VC firms that really matter. The rest fight for the scraps. Okay. Okay. Next up, Manas wrote, Jerome Powell is a Republican, by the way. I know it makes no sense, but humans can be biased sometimes, even if they hate just saying so. Yeah, the Federal Reserve is supposed to be an independent body. Yeah. But everybody has bias. Okay. Next up, ST wrote, good morning. Good morning to you too. You wrote, it's so refreshing to see the new background. It reminds me of those old days, office hours, when you used to bring 7 topics and then delve into Q&A, something you would do again, question mark. Yeah. Thank you. Um, yeah, I kind of did it for a while. But then I realized that instead of me trying to predict what people want to hear about, you're all the customers, and I'm here to serve you and answer questions you have. But this background is pretty cool. I actually got this from my parents' other room. They put it here, and I've got autofocus on, and I'm wearing my Lululemon pants here, so I don't have to be neat below here. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But I will be having more very, very high profile CEOs that you've all heard of on the call soon. Yeah. So I've never really tapped my network for teaching. I've got a great network. I met with tons of CEOs and a lot of people. And yes, I'll start bringing them on soon because it's fun. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Barney Rubble. What's up, Fred? That's from the Flintstones, right? Wrote, I'm still a newbie in investing, but I'm learning more. How can I create a side hustle of teaching or educating others about investing when I'm still learning myself? Dude, the best way to learn is to teach. Now, if you go onto a website like Udemy, which has online courses, and you search for investing courses, and you look at the bios of a lot of the teachers or instructors, they call them, some of them have work experience in that area, some don't. Yeah. And there's a lot of professors in university that don't have practical experience. They just teach theoretical stuff. So you can definitely do it. Yeah. And if you have questions about how to create an online course, I can definitely help you with it. I know what sells, I know what doesn't. And what you can do is this actually go to my courses on Udemy, my investing courses, and look at the 1-star reviews, of which there's 8 million, and read the comments and make a better version of my courses. Right. And ultimately, the student wins as part of educational Darwinism. Okay. Greg wrote, you think capital gains taxes should be indexed for inflation when taxed? No, I think it should be a hard number. Otherwise, it can be manipulated as well. And when it comes to capital gains taxes, and for those who are not familiar with that, that means money you pay taxes on when you made money. Always try to own investments for more than 1 year, because most governments on the planet will encourage you to be longer term focused to the extent that you pay less in capital gains taxes if you profit on something you've held for more than 1 year. Yeah. Okay. Monastro, your Amazon cart is ginger. I don't know those types of ginger. and lemon garlic. But what may be the taste may be different. Yeah, yeah. I don't consume food for taste, unless we go out to dinner and stuff. Like my shakes, they don't doesn't really taste like anything. It's like kale and stuff. Yeah. Oh my God, Mark, how are you? Mark is from the great state of Michigan. He graduated my platinum program years ago. He always types in caps, which I love because it reminds me of my grandfather who was not yelling at me. He just typed in caps. I love you, Grandpa. I hope you're having a good time hanging out with Katie. You wrote, "Hey brother, great to see you too, man." And I hope to also see you on our weekly 3 hour Zoom call for MBA students, which starts, I guess, in 45 minutes. Yeah. And then ST wrote, "Brilliant to hear your answer on health hacks. It deserves a vlog out of that video clip. Thank you." And my team, what they'll do, that my contractors, is they'll probably create a vlog on that as well. And actually, what I'll do is my CMO, Cassandra Cox, I outsourced to her. She's amazing. Maybe I'll ask her to make next week's weekly email all about biohacks and then reference that. Yeah. The Manos wrote, have Nvidia and AMD peaked? Like obviously AI is growing like crazy, but is the market overbought now, at least because like in technical analysis, it is sliding down. What are your thoughts? Yeah, I don't think of it that way. I tend to think very, very long term. Yeah. And so, I bought Nvidia, right after ChatGPT was announced. Held it for a while. It went up too much, sold. Didn't have to pay much in capital gains. Actually, no taxes. It was in my 401k. Then I bought it again when it pulled back. Yeah, but I am bullish in the very, very long run. And all ships rise. It's not just going to be Nvidia. Yeah. And what you can do if you want to is to find out sometimes better investments might be the small cap companies that are tied to bigger cap companies. And so what you can do is go to Nvidia's annual report, the 10K, and do a search on suppliers and find out who Nvidia buys stuff from. And maybe there's smaller cap stocks that can go up materially as well. Or you can just buy an AI ETF. Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm bullish in the long run. But what people don't realize is how capital intensive all this AI stuff is, which is why a lot of investors are upset with Microsoft's recent earnings because their Capex, meaning how much money they spend on big data centers, went up, I don't know, 10 or $15 billion year over year for the quarter. But I'm long term focused always. Yeah. All right, Kern, good to see you. All right. Tesla Vision wrote, "How are you, Chris? I'm always great, thanks. And I hope you're doing well as well." You wrote, "I don't know if you remember me, not by Tesla Vision, but if you tell me your name, I might." Um, you wrote, "I've had a big turn of events in my life. I'm currently studying to do the SIE, then the 63, Series 63, and the Series 6 license. It's to be a banker for a large bank." Nice. Very cool. What are routes? Give me 1 second here. What other routes can I take to make myself more marketable? Yeah, so step one in my MBA program, we start off with networking, how to make an amazing LinkedIn profile. Then I teach you how to set up tons of informational meetings. Do not just apply for investment banker or finance jobs. I want you to set up tons of informational meetings with people that work at those companies. Now, quick tip on how to pass every multiple choice exam you'll ever take. Okay, this is a little bit out there, but and this is not just for you, it's everybody in this call. When you write an exam that's multiple choice, I want you to think like a lawyer. And this is the only time you should ever think like a lawyer. But I want you to think like a lawyer and contest each answer. And so I'm able to actually pass most or a lot of multiple choice questions without reading the question. Here's how I do it. So extreme language in a court of law, can be contested. So for example, multiple choice question is this: what color is this box? And the answers are as follows: it's always blue. It's never yellow. It's sometimes orange, or none of the above. The correct answer is this. I'll tell you why in a second. So it's always blue. No, I can find an exception. If there's a certain light reflection, it might appear a different color. That's wrong. it's never, I can't remember what I said, but it's never orange. Well, it could be orange if you have a light here, or it's sometimes pink. Yeah, it can be pink sometimes if you're reflecting it with a pink light. So the bottom line there, and I butchered that one, I know, but I have my heart in the right place. The bottom line is wishy-washy answers from a Venn diagram perspective, ask Kamala Harris, are usually correct. Like sometimes, or it could be. But definitive answers like it's always this or it's never this are wrong because lawyers can, kind of come up with exceptions. And a quick side note, and I've said this before, but I'm really curious. Are you a jerk before you go to law school, or is that something they teach you in law school? Unless you're a civil rights lawyer, then I love you. Okay. Or representing me, then you're IE. Okay. And then ST wrote, how can you speak more about how to use a data room for M&A? Yeah. So what I would do is I'd start to learn analytics-based products. You can start with Excel if you want to. And then what you can do is use more higher end stuff like Power BI, which is made by Microsoft. And then you can move on to Tableau and others as well. Yeah, and there's plenty of online courses that will help you with that from an analytical perspective. Yeah, and it's fun. Okay. Manas wrote, sorry if I ask a lot of questions. I'm dumb. No, no, please. You wrote, I really enjoy this every time. Thank you. And you've been with me since it was before episode 100, I think. Yeah. No, no, please. I'm always here to, there are no dumb questions, only dumb answers. Yeah. And my dad used to say, those who can't do, teach. And those who can't teach gym class. And I suck at sports, so you're all out of luck. And I'm kidding. I love teachers. They can do. I love them. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Sean wrote, if you have more time, sure. Can you provide more details on the private wealth management career? Yeah. So private wealth management is a career where you manage money for other people. Okay. So you might manage, say, I don't know, if you manage $1 billion, you get a 1% fee every year from that. Okay. And that's what, $10 million, right? And what you do is you try to grow, but more importantly, protect and preserve the capital of your clients. And not only do you tell them what to invest in, but you have a great network of tax lawyers, accountants, etc., that can help them to minimize taxes. Really wealthy people get wealthier and probably got wealthy by paying less in taxes. Yeah, yeah. So Warren Buffett pays less than 1% normalized tax every year. He has even publicly said it's not fair. Yeah. So you help with tax strategies as well. Now, the way it works usually is you're part of a team. Okay, so say you work at Goldman Sachs in a private wealth management group, PWM. Your team might represent New Jersey. And there's a senior person, and then there's more junior people that support that senior person. And eventually, if you work hard and you grip and grin and network like crazy, you will get investors as well that will be part of your team. And then you get compensated based on the annual commissions. Yeah. But you got to be really good at raising money and networking. Your network is your net worth. Relationships are more important than product knowledge. You don't have to be a financial wizard either, because you can just pitch stocks or investment ideas that the equity research analysts at Goldman Sachs, for example, come up with. All right. Next up, Manas wrote, please don't troll your friend, Mr. Trudeau, when you're in Canada. He is smart. He's 52, like me, and a great drama teacher. And yes, every country should have long-term limits on leaders because it's boring. I don't troll him at all. Yeah. But my favorite prime minister was Brian Mulroney. I loved him and Ronald Reagan. That's why I came to the States. And Brian Mulroney's son, actually, Mark Mulroney, was on my team. I managed him when I was at Goldman. Really good guy. That guy can network. Yeah, yeah. And I think he mentioned to me that I think he dated Ivanka. I could be wrong, but yeah. Okay. All right. James, bonjour. Je veux faire de grasse matinée. Moving on to Alex, who wrote, Chris, you were mentoring the importance you were mentioning the importance about starting our YouTube channel and brand ourselves. I'm a videographer. Would you recommend starting in your field of expertise or any subject passion? Definitely, whatever you're passionate about. If you're passionate about videography, go all in on that. Yeah, and as a great role model for that, maybe look at Marquise Brownlee's YouTube page. He's not a videographer, but he talks a lot about tech products as well. But the way that his videos are edited are beautiful, and there's tons of people out there that do this with respect to creating great videos, etc. Yeah, but when you do it, think of a massive total addressable market. You know, like maybe it can be a video on how to take the best videos of your children, or I don't know what equipment to pack on a vacation for pictures, etc. Just think of a big TAM always. Yeah, yeah, and don't be perfect. Just get it out there, get started. If you look at the early videos from Marquise Brownlee or other YouTube icons, they weren't that good. They're probably better than mine. But just don't be afraid to put yourself out there and be consistent. If you're gonna vlog every week or every month, do it at the exact same time every week or every month. Yeah. And your competition, I promise you, will give up. Heck, I've been doing this for, I guess it's 6 years now, right? This weekly call. I ain't ever stopping. Yeah. Okay. And you'll find that when you create contents like online content, classes, whatever it is, vlogs, um, you're going to change your content over time because the customer, meaning whoever's viewing it, will leave you comments and guide you down a different path if you want to go down that path. An example of that is for me. When I first started doing this stuff, when I worked in venture capital, I would teach during the evenings through stuff online. I thought all people want to learn from me was, finance and accounting because I worked in finance. And every now and then I'd kind of go off track and talk about personal growth. And I get a lot of comments and likes on those videos. People are like, well, I kind of like this. Can you talk about this in more detail, please? Yeah. So the market will always guide you. Yeah. All right. Next up, Axel wrote, do you invest in ETFs over individual stocks? Why? Isn't the return higher than ETFs when you do your own research? Yeah. Individual stocks much more so than ETFs. Yeah. Okay. But I recommend doing ETFs if you don't have time to do investment research. Yeah. Okay. Oh goodness, somebody asked a question about NFT. Wow. Part of the metaverse, metaverse. What is the future of DeFi and NFT like 10 years from now? Do you think it will make sense to have monkey images on your bio? So I think what we're referring to is NFT art. So this painting right here, um, this is an original. And my mom always tells me don't touch it. Mom, you're not watching me now. But usually with prints, in the bottom right hand corner, it'll say number 3 out of 300. And prints can go up in value if there's a limited supply. It's the same thing with NFTs. There has to be a limit on supply. And so my favorite NFT investments are baseball cards. I own a ton of baseball cards. It's just a passion of mine, always has been. You always want to look at the underlying supply. So I think there's going to be a viable market for that in the long term. And you just ask yourself this basic question. In 5 or 10 years, will digital art be more relevant than it is today? Of course it will. Yeah. Okay. And the blockchain will get more mature over time, but I think what needs to happen is we need a little bit more regulation. And I believe in small government. I'm probably more of a libertarian. But when it comes to cryptocurrencies, I believe we should have some government regulation because so many people get scammed. And the SEC really should regulate cryptocurrencies and blockchains to the extent that if they're ever going to make money from it or issue cryptos, you have to file an S1, like an IPO document. Yeah, it's coming. Okay, next up, ST wrote, hey, Chris, what is the rationale of the Fed to wait for both inflation to stop and unemployment to increase? Yeah. So what usually happens is when things get more expensive, the way to stop things from getting more expensive is to make money more expensive, meaning raise interest rates. So if you raise interest rates hypothetically to 20%, which wouldn't happen, but if you did that, we would spend a lot less money and product would stop going up in price. it start going down because demand will go way down, right? And so fiscal monetary policy is a tool that governments have to be able to offset inflation. So inflation is really high. Government raises interest rates to stop demand. And when they start cutting interest rates, once they see inflation goes down and when unemployment goes up as well, because that's a telltale sign that the economy is slowing. Now, what makes this economic cycle different from previous ones is the unemployment rate is basically, calculates people that are looking for work. But in the United States, every single week, 100,000 baby boomers retire, right? So it's kind of tough to really gauge what is the real unemployment. But there's weekly and jobless and monthly jobless claims. The weekly jobless claims were a couple percent higher than expected. Came out yesterday or the day before. So that means the Federal Reserve is probably going to cut rates. Plus, the Federal Reserve signaled yesterday that they're probably going to be cutting rates for the first time in 4 years in September. Yeah. And when times are really good, governments have to raise interest rates. Otherwise, when times are bad, they can't cut interest rates to jumpstart the economy. And that's why interest rates were zero during COVID, because there was mismanagement on the side of the Federal Reserve. When the economy was doing great before COVID, they should have raised interest rates a lot more. Perhaps they were bullied by a certain politician. I don't know. I'm not going to go there. Yeah. And because they didn't raise rates when times were good, they had to cut rates to zero during COVID, which led to massive inflation. Yeah. But it was the right call in hindsight doing that. Yeah. Cutting rates. All right. Okay, George. Hey, George, how are you, man? Good to see you. I'm looking forward to reading your book on December 2nd. George is one of my platinum students in my class that started on May 6th. And my 10th one-year gold and platinum program will start next January. Yeah. So George wrote, hey, Chris, great information. I continue to implement your mojo. Thank you. What is the best method to integrate AI into a broker-dealer? Yeah, I wouldn't do it yet. And I last fall, if you look at my YouTube channel, I interviewed the #1 software internet analyst in the world, Brent Thill, and I asked him about AI and how they're using it in banks. And he said they're not really yet, only because there's something called hallucinations, to the extent that we don't really trust what is the right answer when we ask AI a question. Yeah. But what I would start using it for in general is just expense mitigation, expense management. So for me, for example, instead of hiring people to do, I don't know, online customer service, I have chat bots. I spend $20 on that every month. So that might be one way to do it. In the long run, what you'll be able to do, though, is you'll be able to use AI to help you invest. Not yet, though. And I have an elective for you, actually. So what you can do, George, there's my sister. What you can do is you can go to the last lecture of your MBA degree program. Anybody that signed up for my silver, gold, platinum, diamond MBA, and by the way, diamond is sold out for a while. But just go to the very last lecture of your curriculum, and you'll be able to access this course here, which is only available on my website, called ChatGPT for Investing in Stocks, where I tell you how to use all major AI products to create an investment report, target price, etc., using AI. Yeah, but it's not perfect yet. Yeah, and I list all the caveats as well. Yeah. Okay. And so anybody in my MBA program, the electives, they're always added to the last lecture of your curriculum, including the real estate elective coming out this fall, which is exclusive to my MBA students. Yeah. Okay, next up, Geo Trivia wrote, what is the scope of equity research and how do you get into it? Yeah, so equity research is basically a department, usually on big sell-side firms like Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Deutsche Bank, etc. And what they do is they analyze publicly traded companies. They analyze the qualitative aspect of it, the quantitative aspect, and the financial aspect of it in order to come up with a target price and a rating, usually buy, hold, sell. And there's usually one lead analyst that has a team working for him or her that covers different sectors. So for example, the #1 internet analyst actually at Goldman Sachs, a good friend of mine named Kash Rangan. And Cash will cover, he's an equity research analyst covering internet stocks. And he'll go on TV as well and talk about his thoughts on internet stocks, and then give his recommendation. Yeah. In terms of how to get into it, if you're an undergrad, you can go to on-campus recruiting, but more importantly, set up informational meetings. Set up a ton of informational meetings. And my son, Andrew, who's going to third year at Berkeley, has set up about 100 informational meetings this summer with investment bankers and consultants from firms like McKinsey, et cetera. That's how you get a job. Yeah. Okay. And I also teach how to interview in my MBA program. Yeah. All right. And then Martin Communications wrote, "Hi, Chris. Hey, there are large numbers of legitimate financial gurus talking about a crash coming. What amount of our savings should be kept in the bank versus investments or cash on hand?" Yeah. And then you wrote paranoid, Peter. Yeah. Yeah. I don't tend to think about that. Like I think just longer term. It depends when you need the cash. So an old school private wealth management school of thought is this. Um, you take 100 minus your age. So if you're 80, 100 minus 80 is 20. That means that 20% of your investments should be in riskier growth stocks and 80% in very low risk stuff like AAA rated bonds or high dividend yielding Dow 30 components, for example. And the reason is because you don't have as much time to make it up. If you're 25, 100 minus 25 is 75. So 75% of your investments can be in growth investments or riskier stocks, not too risky, and 25% in lower risk stuff like government bonds, etc. Now, the reason I say this is old school is because the math doesn't work anymore because a lot of people are going to live to 150. There are people on this call that will make it to 150. Yeah. In terms of, so I want to caution you about worrying about this too much. And like, I don't want you to take advice from me or anybody that tells you what stocks to buy or their outlook on the market. I always want you to do your own research. Otherwise, what will happen is this. You'll buy a stock and then you'll sell it. You'll panic when it goes down. And we've all been there. And Warren Buffett said the New York Stock Exchange is the only store in the world where consumers sell stuff when it goes on sale. Yeah. But I wouldn't worry about this. Yeah, but let me show you something here. Okay, this is interesting. All right, so let's go to finance.yahoo.com. Let's pick VU, ticker for the S&P 500. Okay. And let's look at a chart forever. Okay. All right, this is good enough. All right. So if I told you, hey man, buy this stock, it's the year 2010, whatever. Buy this stock at this price here, $100. In 15 years, it'll be at $500. You'd be like, oh my God, it's a great investment. Sure, why not? But if and you got to be long-term focused, like own for 5, 10, 15 years or ever, forever. But if you look at the chart every day, you probably panic here and like right here, this is COVID, right? You're like, oh my God, the world is ending. I have to sell my stocks. Just buy and hold. Obviously, do your homework. Update your financial statements or this document here I provide you with my MBA program. But I just want you to be long-term focused. And that's why a lot of people do better in their retirement accounts than they do in their, other investing accounts where they're day trading. They do better in their accounting, their retirement ones because quite often they own stocks for longer. Yeah. So and nobody can call peaks or troughs in the market because it's some geopolitical Black Swan event which will maybe, I don't know, cause stocks to go lower. Something you can't forecast. Like a 9/11 or COVID, for example. And I remember I worked for a while at a hedge fund called Pequot, which I think was the largest tech hedge fund in history at one point. And this was back in '06 and '07. And I remember Art Sandberg, God bless him, the billionaire founder of Pequot, he passed away from pancreatic cancer. I miss that guy. But I remember one day in '06 or '07, I was pitching a couple of housing related shorts to him. My team and I were, like Lennar, ticker LEN, and KBH Homes. And the thesis was that the real estate market is overvalued. And he said, well, what's your catalyst? And I said, well, eventually this is not sustainable, right? And he said to me, I'll never forget this. He said, son, I've been around long enough to know never to stand in the way of insanity. Markets peak, markets trough. You cannot time this sort of thing. It's hard to time. So yes, I could have put those trades on in 06, but it might take me 2 years till the fall of 2008 to make money on them. And y'all have seen The Big Short. Michael Burry had to, basically ignore his investors for up to a year. Imagine doing that for 2 or 3 years. Yeah. It's too hard to call these things. Yeah. All right. And I'm doing a vlog soon on the Big Short as well. Okay. And there's a famous quote, something along the lines, I'll butcher it, of, economists have predicted 7 of the past 52 recessions. Yeah. Okay, Katsu wrote, hi, Chris. I'm a student from France's top schools, HEC Paris, with a few corporate finance internships under my belt. What do you think is the best shot at working in the United States or a hedge fund? Yeah, so HEC is a great school. I actually taught a lot there as well. Every year, Marie Prochaine would bring all HEC students out here and I give a speech. And if you want to see the speech I gave on all the questions that your classmates asked, you can always search my website here. In terms of getting a job, yeah, right here. So yeah, I gave a speech. This is 5 years ago, actually, to HEC MBAs on how to present, and I had Ali G in it as well. I know,
Sure.
cray, yeah. But anyway, that was fun.
Money, and I'll explain why
But-
during this presentation. And so there's a lot of
So in general, if you want to get a job at a hedge fund or investment bank, whatever, what I would do is I network like crazy with people that are graduates of HEC. Okay. And they want to help you if you ask. For example, and I'm going to make this up. Okay. So Katsu, let's say 20 years from now, you're a partner at Goldman Sachs in investment banking, right? Or I don't know, you work at Citadel, a firm I worked at years ago, and you're a managing director there or portfolio manager 20 years from now, and you're very successful. And somebody, I'm going to make this up, but somebody 20 years younger than you is from your same hometown. And let me make up a country name. I'll say Japan. Say Kyoto. Okay. Somebody from Kyoto works at Citadel as a managing director. And this person also went to HEC. And if that a 20-year younger version of you reaches out to you and says, do you have time for an informational meeting? I also went to HEC. I'm also from Kyoto, for example. Would you take that meeting? Of course you would. So that's what you have to do. You have to find people that work in the hedge fund industry, for example, that have something in common with you that also went to HEC. And I teach about this in my MBA degree program. And we have a ton of MBA degree program students in my course that have actually gotten their MBA from top schools, Ivy League schools, HEC, etc. And you'll learn more in 1 month than you will at HEC. I promise you. But I teach how to network on steroids. And you have to set up these informational meetings using LinkedIn. Why LinkedIn? Because every message you've gotten in LinkedIn, you've read. But certainly not every email. So how do you do it? Well, you do an advanced search in LinkedIn on HEC and the finance industry. And you find out which people went to HEC that work at hedge funds. And you might drill down as well to where you're from. And I just made up a city named Kyoto. And then you send an email that says exactly this. Subject is hi. They're going to read it anyway. Contents is this. Jennifer, hope all is well. I also grew up in Kyoto, and I also have an MBA from HEC. And that rhymed. Please let me know if you have time for a quick coffee or a Zoom meeting. Thanks a lot, your future boss. No, thanks a lot, your name, Chris. They're going to take that meeting. Do that 50 times for all hedge funds. And then during that meeting, that informational meeting, what you do is this. The first 10 minutes you bond. You talk about what you have in common. You always want to bond for business. And then they're very politely going to say, why are we meeting? They won't say it like that. And at that point, what you do is you say, well, I'm really enjoying school and I'm really passionate about the hedge fund industry. Actually, I wrote a couple of one pagers for you on long and short ideas, right? And so right here, this is dummy data, but you can print these out here, okay, and put on the back of your resume. And you have to specifically ask them if they're hiring. And if they say no, you say when, politely, of course. And then if they say, well, in 6 months we're definitely hiring, then you reach out to them again in 6 months. And then what you do is during that informational meeting, you also ask them, do you know anybody else also went to HSA or is also from Kyoto, for example? I'm making that up. That works in the hedge fund industry that you can introduce me to. And you have to ask. It's getting hot in here, so I'm just going to take off my shirt here. Remember that closed mouths don't get fed. Asking you'll receive is prophetic. It's been true since the beginning of time. People want to help you if you ask. Yeah. Okay. That's the problem with most people that join big companies is they keep their head down, they work hard, and they don't ask to get promoted. And they look around and they realize that, hey, these people around me, these people are getting promoted and raises faster than I am because they asked. And I can teach you all how to ask for a promotion or a raise if you want me to go down that path. Okay. That was a long answer. You're thinking, Chris, I asked you a yes or no question. You gave me an encyclopedia. WTF? Why the face? My mom is listening. Yeah. All right. And then Duan wrote, awesome. Thanks for the advice. You're most welcome. Please elaborate why people don't make as much money with venture capital as people think. Yeah. So the way it works in venture capital is venture capital cycles are really long, like 10 years sometimes or longer. And it takes forever for you to get paid on something. So if you join a venture capital firm and you get a deal and it's in your fund, it's going to take you 10 years before that company maybe goes public if you're lucky. And to make matters worse, the top 10 venture capital firms on the planet, the Kleiner Perkins, et cetera, only 1% of their investments are unicorns, meaning companies that eventually have a market cap or valuation of $1 billion. 1%. Now, Sequoia, it's 5%. So it's a liquidity trap. You don't get paid forever. Yeah. And that's basically that sums up the Bay Area as well. Anybody working in tech that is having trouble affording, to buy a house, and my heart bleeds for them. It's expensive in the Bay Area. That people are living barely off their base salary, but they're hoping they're I don't know, they're rolling the dice and hoping that the company they work at will go public one day. But for every Google that goes public, there's a gazillion other companies that go nowhere. They're walking dead. Yeah. Okay. And then Axel wrote, I heard you recommend blue light blocking glasses. Do you have any recommendations on which one? Yeah, and I went to Lens Crafters to get these just when I play video games like Clash of Clans and stuff. I can see my screen. Just kidding, sort of. I'm not actually. Yeah, I'll show you the ones I got, and they're really cheap. Nobody has a patent on this blue blue lens thing. Market orders, and I'll do a search here on glasses. Okay, there they are, blue light glasses. Yeah, and I bought this actually from my nephew Alex. Yeah, so you get 2 pairs for $13, free 1-day delivery. Yeah, so I recommend this, and all it does is it blocks out the blue lights, right? And it comes with a little blue light as well that you can shine through it that shows you how it blocks out blue light as well. Highly recommend it. Everybody do that. Have multiple pairs. Yeah. Okay. How are we doing on time here? All right, we got about 10 minutes left. Hey, Paul, how are you? Paul from Barcelona. It was so great to meet you in the summer of 2018. I was in Barcelona with my family, and you gave me I met you there, one of my students. You gave me this incredible football jersey too, and my kids had a meltdown on La Rambla, and you were so polite, and I miss you. How are you? So Paul wrote, I'm so sorry for your loss. Thank you, brother. That means a lot. Thank you. I'm sure she'll be caring for you all regardless. You have a great heart, Chris. God bless you all. Thank you. God bless you. Yeah. And it's hard, man. Like, I don't, like, my sister, she passed away, but I don't know how anybody can deal with this sort of thing without having religion. Like, how do you deal with death of a family member if you're not religious? I don't see how people can do it. I have very strong faith. Yeah. And I don't worry about things in life in general because I tell myself God already knows what's going to happen. And that puts my mind at ease. Yeah. We tend to worry too much, don't we? Yeah, how are you? Yeah, good to see you as well. Yeah, graduated from my gold MBA program. I think it was like 6 months ago. Great to see you. Okay, Martin wrote Ron Paul and G. Edward Griffin, Creatures from Jekyll Island book, are supporters of the idea that paid labor is an even exchange and shouldn't be taxed since there are no actual gains, and that income is actually when you make money from someone else's labor, which is how income tax used to be. What's your opinion? I think everybody should pay taxes. Okay. Look, I'm a capitalist, but at the same time, I don't think it's fair that the 400 richest families in America only pay just over 20% in taxes per year. That's not fair. Now, the reason they don't is because in order to pay taxes, you have to have a taxable gain. Like you have to sell shares in your company or get paid for something. In fact, back in 2007, when Jeff Bezos was already a billionaire many times over, not only did he not pay any taxes, but he got $16,000 back on his tax return. That's $4,000 for each of his 4 kids. That's not fair. I think billionaires, there should be a tax on billionaires as well. Nothing egregious, because billionaires create a lot of jobs and stuff. So maybe it should be something like this. If you're a billionaire, the more jobs you create in a year, the less tax you pay. But you still have to pay tax. Yeah. Like Warren Buffett pays less than 1% normalized tax every year. It's not fair. And this is how the rich people get insanely rich. And that's why I want all of you to think about starting your own company one day. You save a fortune on taxes. The same thing when you invest in real estate as real estate investment holdings, which I'll be teaching in my upcoming elective this fall. Yeah. And a quick side note, I don't want anybody in this call to ever do your own taxes, please. Don't do your own taxes. Doing your own taxes is like doing surgery on yourself. There's a reason why these people that do taxes, CPAs, etc., have professional designations. The tax code changes all the time. Depending on whether Trump or Harris wins the election, taxes are going to change. How? I don't know. An accountant knows. An accountant will get you a lot of money back too in the long run if they're good, and they'll keep you in the confines of the law. Please get an account. Okay, and the way to find an accountant, there's no Yelp for accountants. It's kind of like a balkanized sect. The way to get a good accountant is to ask your successful aunt or uncle or friend at work, whatever, and ask them who they use. It's well worth it. Okay. Okay, Klesia, my goodness, it's been years. I think I remember you on the call 3 years ago, and I think you're in one of my MBA projects. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. You wrote, "Hi, Prof. It's Klesia Mendez here. Just rewatch your Udemy course, 101 Crucial Lessons They Don't Teach You in Business School. It's a treasure trove of invaluable insights." Thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. And that book that I wrote, I used that template that I provided you all with earlier today in the call. Yeah, thank you. I had a lot of fun making that. And that book actually was 101 LinkedIn posts I made over 2 years. I just repackaged it and put it together in a book. And the chapters in the beginning of the book are the ones that got the most views, likes, comments, etc. on LinkedIn. Yeah. Great to see you. Okay. And I have a new book actually. Let me show you guys for the first time ever. So that book, 101 Crucial Lessons, Obama's publisher reached out to me, and they want to publish the book, and I said no, because they would own the IP for it, and also the price would go up, and I make next to nothing. But I did finally cave in, and create a book that McGraw-Hill published. So you can go to Amazon, Chris Haroun, Finance Essentials. It just hit Amazon. Yeah, here it is here. Yeah. So yeah, Finance Essentials for managers. I teach you about accounting and finance and all that stuff here. This is done by McGraw-Hill. Yeah, and I learned a lot through the process too. God, are they thorough, man? Yeah. Okay. I wouldn't do it again, but I like working with them. They're good. Okay. Next up, Geo Trivia wrote, any books that you might suggest for equity research? It's hard. There's nothing really amazing, but when I do go into somebody's office that's more successful than me, which is every time I go to an office, I always look at their bookshelf to see, what books they have. So when I worked at Citadel, I remember going to Ken Griffin's office. He's the founder, nice guy. We talked for half an hour, and I looked at his bookshelf, and he had books by an NYU professor called Damadorian, I think is the name, something like that. So do a search on Damadorian. I'm screwing up the pronunciation, but Google will correct you. And you can get that NYU Stern professor's books as well, if you want to. Or take my courses where I teach all that stuff, or read that finance book I just showed you of mine, Finance Essentials. That will help you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. All right. And then Mark, who goes by Satones, wrote, how do smaller hedge funds compete with multi-manager and multi-strategy hedge funds? Is it because they have an easier strategy or the clients investing less funds? Yeah. Yeah. So it's much easier to turn a small ship around. And what I mean by that is this. If you manage a tiny hedge fund that has only $10 million and you want to sell a position that's 5% of your fund, right? $500,000. It's easy to sell it because it's a smaller amount, right? And so if you think a stock is going to crash, hey, you can sell it quickly. You're fine without moving the market. Compare and contrast that to a $1 billion fund where a 5% position is $50 million. You're a stockholder. You can't get out of that position quickly, at least. So liquidity can kind of hurt returns on larger hedge funds relative to smaller ones. Yeah, yeah. But the smaller hedge funds also don't have enough money to hire a team of analysts, and the bigger hedge funds do, which is why the bigger hedge funds tend to make more money in the long run than the smaller ones. Okay. Also, bigger hedge funds are people that have a great track record that were able to raise a lot of money. Yeah. So a very good friend of mine named Carl Kraker. I worked from that at Citadel. We're good friends. Had dinner with him lots of times, family stuff. He left. He started his own fund called Woodbine. I think he's got like $10 billion or something. Because of his track record. He's a good guy. Canadian too. Makes me proud. Okay. All right. And then Ryan, hey Ryan, how are you? Speaking of somebody who wrote a book, how are you? I think you talk about your book a lot on LinkedIn as well. Nice to see. Ryan wrote, hey Chris, what does debt to GDP of 90% mean? Is it every dollar GDP 90 cents is debt? Yeah, that's what that would mean. It's a ratio, right? So debt, I got to wrap this call up in a minute. Debt divided by GDP means every $1 of GDP, which is revenue for a country, they have 90 pennies in debt. Yeah. Lower is, of course, better. Yeah. Okay. And then Mark wrote, I wonder if they used AI in the flash crash. Yeah, back 2010, that was that one day. So there's always weird months when it comes to AI-based investing. I'll give you a classic example. It was August of 2007. And all the crap, I'll never forget that month. All the crappiest stocks went up in August 2007, and all their high quality names went down. And it was because of massive unwinding at a couple of quant hedge funds. And it was a Black Swan event as well. But to learn more about AI-based investing, you got to take a look at Renaissance Technologies, which is founded by a brilliant mathematician who used to work for the NSA, named Jim Simmons, who, God bless him, passed away a year or so ago. Now, when Jim Simmons left the NSA, he started his hedge fund, Renaissance Technologies, which uses AI. He started in the 80s, and his average return since then is 60%. Nobody knows, what is in his black box trading system. But he's certainly done well, and I've talked about that a lot in my vlogs over the years. Yeah. Okay, how are we doing? I'm going to wrap up this call. Let's see. Right now it's yeah. All right. So for those of you in my Silver MBA degree program, if you go to the first lecture of your curriculum at harounmba.com, I'll see you in a couple minutes for my weekly Zoom call with Silver MBA students. That's 1 hour for you guys, and it's 3 hours for my gold and platinum students. So God bless you all. Have a great week. Thank you all for the well wishes on my family, etc. And I'll see you soon. Thank you.